Oh yeah, dude, this is so freaking clean, it's not even funny. So basically this is how I'm gonna play Fortnite off grid. Oh, we're back in the bus. Let's get to it. How's it going, everybody? My name is Jaden. I'm currently building out this 40-foot school bus into my full-time home, documenting the entire thing on YouTube here on this channel. So if you like that kind of thing, make sure to subscribe. You can see the progress from start to finish. In this episode, we will be starting a very exciting project here in the bus, and that is beginning the installation of my electrical system. Very exciting stuff. I'm pretty stoked. Finally getting some power into the bus and being able to power things like outlets, all the lights that I have wired up and more just from the sun is gonna be so freaking sweet. I can't even begin to tell you, I'm so excited. But what I'm not excited for is figuring out how to do this. Now, to give you guys some context here, the most electrical work I've ever done before starting this project was wiring up display lights when I worked at a hardware store in college. I am well out of my wheelhouse here. Before I get into the actual installation process, let me go over the products that I have. I need some better light in here. Okay, we're gonna go kind of QVC showcase style. Starting with, the heaviest thing. Okay. Thing's pretty heavy, so just bear with me. Now this is the EG4 Life Power 48 volt battery. I actually have 3 of these. I just have one in the bus because these things are like 95 pounds a piece, so they're pretty hefty. So I have 3 of these. They're 48 volts. They're going to be wired in parallel to hold a total of 300 amp hours of storage at 48 volts, or about 15 kilowatt hours of storage, 15 and a half kilowatt hours of storage. If you don't know, that's pretty beefy in terms of electrical storage, especially at 48 volts. Now, I'm not going to go over in too much detail why I chose to do a 48 volt system, just because I'm really not an expert on it. And if I could go back and repurchase the items, I may in fact go with the 24 volt system versus a 48, but what I do understand is 48 volt systems are becoming a lot more common and they're more efficient than 12 and 24 volt systems. And with the overall idea of making this as future-proof as possible and leaving as much room for expansion as I can, I wanted to go with what I think would be the most future-proof option, which is a 48 volt system. If you guys know something that I don't about this, leave a note in the comments and let me know if I messed up choosing a 48 volt system or if you think this is a good way to go. Okay, let's go ahead and get this monstrosity out of here. Okay, come on. Okay, what's next? Here's a cool one. The next thing I have is the Victron Links distributor. Basically, all this is a positive and negative bus bar wrapped into a nice and neat little package. So this is the component that all of my different components are gonna hook up to, that being my batteries, my charge controller, my inverter, my DC to DC converter. They're all gonna be connected to this Links distributor. And then the Links distributor's job is to push that power out to the different component. This thing has 4 mega fuse holders. So essentially you can hook up 4 different components to it. So I'm gonna be hooking up my batteries, my inverter, my charge controller, and my DC to DC converter all to this thing. So this should be all I need for that. Do you have to get the Links distributor? No, of course not. Essentially, this is just, like I said, a positive and negative bus bar wrapped into one. This is just something that is designed by Victron to work really well with Victron components, which all of my components are Victron except for my batteries. So I figured, why not just go with this? I'll make sure to put links and price tags for what I got in the description below. Okay, what's next? I also have this Victron Smart Shunt, the 500 amp version.
Okay, I don't really like how I explain this product here. All this is a battery monitor that helps you monitor things like voltage coming in and out, temperature, and anything else you might need to monitor from your batteries. This hooks up on the negative wire between your battery and the rest of your system.
Okay, so the next thing is this Victron MPPT charge controller, the MPPT 250-100 to be exact. This thing's whole job is to take in the energy produced by my solar panels on the roof and convert it down to a manageable voltage to charge my batteries. But my solar array on the roof is delivering power at around 130 to 140 volts, give or take, which obviously is way too much power to charge my batteries. That would totally overload and fry my batteries and the rest of my components. So there needs to be something in line to convert that down to a chargeable voltage for the batteries. And that's what this thing's job is. The reason I chose the 250-100 is essentially because it's like the biggest one I could find. And I knew that I was gonna have a high voltage system. I didn't quite know how high a voltage until I actually wired them up. But again, going back to my batteries that I chose, the reason I chose this as well is because I want to future-proof this system as much as possible. So like I said, my solar array is going to be delivering power at about 130 to 140 volts. If, you know, sometime down the road, I want to either upgrade by adding more solar, bigger solar panels, higher voltage solar panels, or I want to kind of take this solar system and turn it into kind of like a more stationary, higher powered off-grid electrical system, like for an off-grid cabin or something. This is gonna easily translate to a bigger system. It can take up to 250 volts of input and up to 100 amps. So I'm well within the range for this charge controller, but it also allows for quite a bit more upgrades to be done down the line. Essentially, with this charge controller, I could add 4 more solar panels onto the roof, wired exactly how they are, and I would be good to go. So that's something. Next, up next is the Victron DC to DC converter, the Orion. This is a 48 volt to 12 volt DC to DC converter. They make them in 12 volt to 12 volt DC to DC chargers for like alternator charging. They also make 24 to 12 volts. They make 12 volts to 24. I think they might make a 12 to 48. I'm not entirely sure, but I obviously need a 48 volt to 12 volt converter because the power coming from my batteries to the Lynx distributor and then to my distribution block for my 12 volt loads, it needs to have 12 volts be delivered to it. And if I just hook up my distribution block for my 12 volt loads to my Lynx distributor, that's going to be delivering power at way too high a voltage and it's going to fry my components. So I needed something to knock down the voltage to an appropriate amount. What's cool about these is you can basically daisy chain them as many times as you need to get to your desired amperage output. Unfortunately, right now, Victron does not make a higher amperage 48 volt, 12 volt DC to DC converter. I'm sure that's in the works and it'll probably be something somewhat soon, but for now, the max amperage output capacity of one of these is 30 amps. So what I think I'm gonna have to do is hook up 2 of these in parallel to effectively make it a 48 volt to 12 volt DC to DC converter with 60 amps max output continuous. That way I don't have to worry about overloading this thing, pulling too many amps essentially. Yay, last thing. Another big one. Beep. All right. Last thing on the list is my inverter. This is the Victron MultiPlus 48 volt 5000 watt inverter. This thing's whole job is to take that 48 volts from my battery bank and boost it up to 120 volts to power all of my 120 volt AC loads, like all my outlets, my mini split, my washer dryer combo, and anything else I have that operates off of 120. So it's similar to the DC to DC converter in the sense that it converts a particular voltage to an appropriate voltage for its distribution panel, except this one boosts it up quite a bit. This thing can also take input from shore power. So I'll have input coming from shore power. I'll have input coming from my battery bank and Lynx distributor, and both of those can ultimately work together to power all of my 120 volt loads. So I'm pretty excited about this, and those are my components. Pretty exciting stuff. Let me show you what I'm going to be doing for mounting them. Okay, so that whole time I was actually sitting in the enclosure, or at least part of it. I had to build up a pretty tall enclosure because, as you can see, the inverter is pretty tall, and I'm going to be mounting everything except for the batteries on the wall of the enclosure. So it's going to be wall mounted all the way around, and then my batteries are going to be secured to the floor in some fashion. I haven't decided yet, but all the hookups for the MultiPlus are underneath, so I needed to be able to wall mount it and have easy access to the underside of it for wiring purposes. I'm gonna be mounting my multi-plus and my DC to DC converter right here on this wall, so it's a pretty short, straight shot to this area, which is where I'm gonna have my AC and DC distribution panels. My charge controller is gonna be either right here in the corner or right about there in that corner to easily take these two solar wires that I have running from my solar panels. I'll then mount my links distributor somewhere and figure the rest out as I go. And then my batteries are gonna be over somewhere in this corner. I probably overbuilt this quite a bit. It probably didn't need to be so big, but I figure more room the better. Makes for easy workability in the future if I need to service anything in here. It's gonna have some kind of wall here as well, but for hooking everything up, I wanted to leave the space open. I figure let's start with the biggest thing.
All right there, Sonny. Let's go ahead and bust you out of that box.
Come on out, the water's fine. All right, let's take a gander at this here inverter. You're a pretty big one, aren't you?
Oh, good night.
Yeah, that's beefy, all right. So this is how it mounts on the wall. Metal hanging bracket that you screw to the wall, and then it'll just sit on it, and then you can secure it to the actual multi-plus. It's cute, they gave me little stickers. And it comes with all the mounting hardware that you should need. Okay, let's see here, let's bust this out. If I had to guess, this thing's like 45, 50 pounds or so. So it does have me somewhat skeptical mounting it on this 3/4 inch birch, but I don't know. Here's a little hanger, which is nice. It doesn't hang from the bottom. I was under the impression that the hanger was gonna be like somewhere in the middle or the bottom, which had me concerned, but since it's at the top, that's very nice. So I guess let's, I don't know, start drilling some holes. I guess, I don't know. This is all just roughing it in. You can mess up here, it's fine. I don't know, make it as high as reasonably possible. Screw it, let's start. Get it? Screw it. Screw it, let's start screwing. Like 100% certain I'm gonna mess up at least a couple times, probably more, but that's okay. Okay, let's see if this fits. Hopefully it does. Little tip, Victron, put some handles on the top of this thing. I've unfortunately mounted it too high. Let's take it out and mount it a little lower, okay? Come on. Oh yeah, that's money. That is freaking money right there. Okay, what should we install next? That was a question for you guys, I don't really know. Let's install the charge controller next. I'm thinking right here is gonna be a really good spot for it, because that way I'll have a pretty short run to inserting my solar wires. I just love how all this looks. The blue, man, looks so good. Well, the inverter was cool because it came with mounting hardware, but you know, it's whatever. Okay, so I'm thinking I want it like right here. You know what I mean? You see the vision? Let's see. Very nice, very professional, eh? Very professional. And I'll get into this in more detail later on when I actually start wiring this stuff up, but this is a sticker that I can't pull off. So there's a PV side, positive and negative, and a battery side, positive and negative. So the wires from my solar panel come down through to first the DC isolator switch, and then down and into these two screw terminals. Two wires come out from these two screw terminals and go into my links distributor that ultimately leads to my battery bank. Moving on. And guys, I do want to just throw it out there. If I'm able to do this and it works, legitimately anybody on the planet could do it. Just saying. So I see we're staying on theme here with not providing mounting hardware. That's cool. And down to a freaking T. There we go. The last real big thing to mount is the links distributor. Okay, so I'm realizing I very much overbuilt this size-wise. I don't have the batteries in here yet, of course, but the batteries aren't really gonna take up that much space. I mean, they're pretty big wherever they went, but this is all the space that I've used so far, but that does allow for a lot of workability, so that's something, right? So here is the innards of the Lynx distributor. It's got 1, 2, 3, and 4 mega fuse holders. And then you can see with these terminals here, you just take off this little, well, you would take off these little rubber covers here, and then if you needed to hook up 2 or more in like a little daisy chain, you just hook it up to these bolts right here on the other end. Pretty nice. But it looks like the mounting for this is through here, and I don't really want to just shoot screws through it. I want to figure out a more professional way to do it, since it's not just like brackets on the outside of it. So I think I'll come back to this. All right, it's day 2 of this. So I'm going to be mounting my Lynx distributor. I'm going to mount my Lynx distributor. So I'm going to mount my Lynx distributor, and I'm also going to bring in all 3 of my batteries and kind of line them up as I'm going to have them mounted, and then figure out some kind of way to secure them down, because like I said before, they're really heavy, and the way that I need to stack them, I can't really stack them just on top of one another because I don't have a server rack. And they actually recommend that if you're going to do that, 1, ultimately try to avoid it, and 2, limit your stack to 3 because of, you know, risk of crushing, right? But since it's going to be in a bus and there's going to be a lot of movement, I would rather just not stack them on top of each other if I can help it at all. So I'm going to figure out a way to do that. I think the screws that I use to mount the rest of the hardware may work. Oh, dude, yeah, that's crazy. Can you see that? It works perfectly. That's pretty awesome. That sucker's on there. Go ahead and get the cap on there to protect it in the meantime. There we go. All right, there's the brains of the system. Let's focus on the bronze. Okay. Oh boy. Heavy, heavy, heavy. So these batteries are server rack batteries, which just means that they're designed to slip into a slot and be secured down by these 2 side flanges in the front. For me, I don't have the server rack, and I can't really, well, I guess I could remove these flanges, but I'm not going to, because I can just have them mounted like this. I think what I'm gonna do, gonna bring this in and have it right here up against the back wall of the enclosure. And I guess let me go get the other 2, right? Man, let me tell you, chat, these are some beefy batteries. Okay, 1 and 2. Oh, golly. Now remember, these things are like 100 pounds a piece. So. Yup. Get on out of there, battery. Oh yeah, dude. This is so freaking clean, it's not even funny. So basically, this is how I'm gonna play Fortnite off grid. So here are the batteries. Obviously, they have a positive set of terminals and a negative set of terminals. These handles here, they do flip down. I don't really know if that helps me at all. Probably just designed to fit in a server rack, but allow for easy handling, which is really nice. And then you have all your ports for intercommunication between multiple batteries. So the way I'm going to have these hooked up is I'm wiring all the positives together and then all the negatives together, and then ultimately I'll have 1 negative wire and 1 positive wire coming from here, and they'll just drop down right into the Lynx distributor. And then for the Lynx distributor, I'll have my charge controller wires going there. I'll have wires from the inverter going there as well, and then from my DC to DC converter as well. I don't know. As far as electrical systems go, I think this is a pretty neat, clean way to do it. So yeah, let me know what you think about this setup here. If you think it's a good one, if you think I could have done something else differently or better here, I'm all ears. Obviously, this is, like I've been saying, it's my first time doing any of this, so you know, I'm all ears for any support that you guys have to show. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.